Hey y'all, I am so excited about this video that I'm going to bring to you today. I have spent the entire morning working up a really inexpensive, very healthy meal plan to feed my family of 5, all 3 meals, all week long for $60. Come along while we go through the store, get everything that we need, then we're going to take it home. I'm going to show you exactly how to make each one of these recipes, and then you're going to be able to feed your family delicious meals on the cheap. Let's go get started. I'm not going to talk much while I'm in here. I will make sure and tell you everything that we're going to get and leave your grocery list down in the description below. But what I do want to make sure and emphasize at the very beginning is you have to come with a grocery list and you have to stick to it. Think very hard about the things that are least expensive and most nutritious. Add those to your meal plan and you will be able to provide your family good, healthy, nourishing foods on the lowest budget possible. So this is not a normal frugal meal plan. This is not going to be a lot of processed foods. This is not going to be a lot of unhealthy ingredients. I have taken a lot of time to try to think about what my family will eat, to think about the good, nourishing meals that I can provide for them that include the ingredients that I know are healthy but pack the most punch for my dollar. So those are the things that I have included in this meal plan, and to be very honest with you, I am super excited about all of the meals because it's not the normal run-of-the-mill frugal meal plan. I've tried to be really creative. I know sometimes people will get tired of eating different varieties of rice and beans. This does have a lot of rice and beans in it, but I don't think my family is going to notice. So the main thing is to just make sure that you have created a meal plan ahead of time and that you have your grocery list all ready to go. Do not leave home without your grocery list. Make sure that you stick to that grocery list as absolutely carefully as possible, and just be willing to tell everybody that comes along with you, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to have that this week, and you're going to be able to stick to your budget and stick to your meal plan and give your family all of the nourishment that they need at the lowest possible cost. Like I said a minute ago, I will be sure and leave a detailed grocery list down in the description box so you can have access to all of that information. Also, the recipes will be down there as well. I really wanted to talk a little bit about why I chose some of the ingredients that I did. I really like to choose whole food ingredients. If you've been around Homemade Simple for a while, you know that I really do not like to buy a lot of processed ingredients. I don't like to add those to my family's meal plans, and so I don't want to encourage you to add those to yours as well. I just want to bring awareness to the fact that if we can take the time to plan out our meal plans and take a little bit extra time in preparing our meals and our ingredients, we can really give our families superior quality meals at a fraction of the cost that it would be if we just opened up a can and allowed the food manufacturers to produce those ingredients for us instead. I know it's a little bit of a shift in paradigm. I know that it takes a little bit of extra effort on the front end, but really these small changes don't end up making a lot of time difference in the long run, and the way that the meals turn out seems to be just so much better, and it just allows us to give better quality meals to our family while still not killing our budget. I know it is really hard to feed a family right now without going over your budget. I heard a statistic that more people today are going hungry than they have in decades. That made me really sad, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this video to you, to help encourage you that you can give your family good, nourishing meals without having to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars at the store every week. So take this as a little bit of encouragement from me. I know you can do it. I know that you want to feed your family the absolute best meals that you can. That's what I'm here for. I'm really excited about sharing this meal plan with you. I think it turned out really good, although there were a couple of mistakes that I made throughout the week. I'll be sure and go over all of those. I will point out all of the changes that I would have made so that this will be the absolute most perfect meal plan for you and your family this coming week. It's time for breakfast, and I wanted to tell you a couple of the ideas that I had for keeping breakfasts super simple and very affordable this week. Oatmeal is definitely a very good go-to frugal breakfast, so that's what we're going to use a lot. We're also going to try something new. I don't know how this is gonna work. In my previous frugal videos, I usually make a loaf or two of bread using all-purpose flour. And instead of using some of my budget for flour, I decided I would try out a recipe that uses oat flour instead of all-purpose wheat flour. I've never made a loaf of sandwich bread using oat flour, but we will see how that works. Also, a lot of you have recommended using rice for breakfast, so sort of like making a porridge, adding a little bit of sweetener, and that being a really good stick to your bones breakfast option. So those are our three options for breakfast: oatmeal, rice porridge, toast with peanut butter, and banana. I'm just gonna make oatmeal for breakfast this morning, and I will leave the other breakfast recipes down in the description below, so if you're interested in either one of those, you can find them there. Breakfast is such a simple way to save as much money as possible on our meal plan. If we have a simple and easy breakfast, it's going to give us more resources to put toward lunch and dinner, and so we'll be able to have a lot more nutrients in our entire meal plan throughout the week. Oatmeal and rice, those are so simple and easy. Just follow the directions on the back of the container. Find a couple of pantry staples like some brown sugar or maple syrup and sweeten them. They will go a long way throughout the morning to keep you satisfied. And if this loaf of oat bread works out, having a slice of toast with some peanut butter is an excellent way to make breakfast last a really long time. Okay, it's Saturday morning. This is a perfect time for me to get a batch of stuff going for our frugal meal plan this week. I think I have worked up enough courage to give this oat bread a try. I really am looking forward to this. I've never made bread with anything, I don't think with anything other than regular bread flour, except maybe one time I tried using gluten-free flour, but it worked the same. I'm not really gonna count that, but today, this is something totally new. I'm gonna use my new grain mill to grind the oats, but you probably don't have one of those. That's fine. Just use your food processor and it will grind up really nice and smooth. If you don't have a food processor, maybe you have a blender, it will do it in there as well. Sometimes you just have to acknowledge defeat. I'm doing that now. We're gonna do it the easy way. First of all, let me just say I'm sorry if you're gluten-free and you have to deal with fixing recipes all of the time and dealing with recipes that do not work. I'm sorry that you have to deal with that, and I have a much greater appreciation for what you go through every day. My experience with this oat flour started off really bad but ended up really good, so there's a happy ending to this story. I made my oat flour finally. I had a lot of trouble, as you saw, but I finally did it in my blender. It worked perfect, and I made a loaf of bread that turned out absolutely terrible. It was disgusting. When it finished cooking, you couldn't eat it. Lane ate it. I don't know how, I don't know why. He liked it. He was the only one. But then I scoured for another recipe, found a really simple, easy rise recipe. It had baking powder instead of yeast. It turned out really good. It was super easy, super simple, no problem, no fuss. It was just like making a cake. So I highly recommend you give that a try. It turned out to be really good and a really good asset to this meal plan. I made some peanut butter toast with it in the morning and it really tasted good. It had a really good flavor, and this is why I think it's really good to experiment in the kitchen. You can learn new skills. You can find out new ways of using ingredients that you almost always have on hand. I really enjoyed making this gluten-free bread, at least the second one, and I hope that you will give it a try because it really did add a layer to this meal plan that I think would have been missing if I had just used a regular loaf of bread. It's time for us to make our first dinner, and I have two goals this week. Number one, stay within my budget, eat very frugal meals, but number two, and also just as important, as healthy as possible. I told y'all a couple of weeks ago, Chris has been diagnosed with a liver disorder, and it's really important for me to take responsibility for the food that I feed my family, especially now with that being top of mind. So it's important to note that the things that I have chosen for our meals this week are not only very inexpensive and budget friendly, but they're also as healthy as I could get for the restricted cost budget that I was working with this week. So you can eat healthy foods on a budget. You won't find a whole lot of processed foods or prepackaged ingredients in my recipes. If those are the things that you like to cook with, you can make those substitutions, and it's very easy to just make a little bit of an adjustment on the recipe that I provide. All of the recipes will be down in the description box below, so you can make these recipes either exactly as I do, or you can change them to fit what your family likes the best. So tonight we're gonna have chicken and roasted vegetables. Now I have this really large container of chicken quarters, I guess you call them. It's like the breast and the thigh all put together. Actually I think it has the drumstick too. So it's a big piece of meat. I'm going to cook the entire package that is over 5 pounds. I'm going to do that because I have plans for this meat also later in the week, and it'll just be easier for me to go ahead, have that cooked and ready to go for my next recipe that I'm going to use it for, and then I will be able to save some time that day and also be able to process this meat all at the same time. So I'm gonna get busy getting all of this together, and we're gonna put it in the oven. It's gonna be simple, one dish dinner, and it's not gonna take us long at all. There were 2 things that I really loved about this recipe. Number 1, it really turned out to look like an absolute gourmet dinner. It was very easy, very simple, very inexpensive, but it just ended up looking so elegant. I really think that this is something that you could serve to company, and they would think that you had really gone to a lot of trouble and a lot of expense. But you know, around here we don't do a lot of either one of those. So this meal was really easy to put together. And the other thing that I liked about it was the versatility of it. I sort of, as I was cooking, realized that any kind of vegetable could be used and incorporated into this kind of a meal. So you can have the inexpensive leg quarters and then just add whatever seasonal vegetable is available at the time and is the least expensive. Carrots, rutabagas, different kinds of winter squash would be good in here. Broccoli would be really good as well. So there's so many different ways that you could make this recipe, and no matter what you used in it, I think it would just turn out to be absolutely delicious. This was probably one of my favorite recipes this week, and it was honestly one of the simplest. So not only was it easy to put together, but it made a lot of food, and I was able to reserve the leftovers for several lunches, and then the chicken can be used later on in the week as well. Our next dinner recipe is going to be a super simple and easy breakfast taco. I'm going to make a taco for everybody. I think there's going to be a lot of leftovers. I need to go ahead and make it pretty early in our week because this avocado was pretty green when I bought it. It's already getting pretty soft. I don't want to lose that 99 cents. Avocados have just gone up a lot recently. The last time I looked for avocados, they were less than 70 cents. So this might be a little bit extra. If you can't afford the avocado, it's not a big deal. It's just gonna give a little bit of extra flavor, extra nutrients, and a little bit of color. I'm also gonna use one of my Roma tomatoes. This is really just for a little bit of topping and color pop. I got some sausage to use in this recipe. If you don't like sausage, or if you want to save the $2 or $3, I can't recall, I think it was, pretty sure it was $3 for this roll of sausage. If you would like to just transfer that to another meal and have a different option for another meal, you don't really need this sausage for as far as the protein for this meal, because we're gonna have the base of our recipe with this dozen eggs. I'm not gonna use the entire dozen. I probably will use 8 for our 6 to 8 tacos, and I'm gonna use these small flour tortillas. I decided to get the small container because they were a little bit cheaper, and I got 20 of them. My family will eat as many tortillas as there are. And so I thought, well, if I have 20 tortillas, that will go 20 meals instead of 8 larger tortillas and it only go 8 meals. Let's go ahead and get started making this super simple but yet very nourishing and filling meal. I really like the fact that these breakfast tacos are super easy to freeze, so you can make them ahead of time and you can have a fast dinner already made when you get home and are ready to eat. Or if you want to use them for a breakfast or a lunch, they're really easy to thaw out and be ready on the go meals. What really did surprise me was the price of eggs. Y'all know that I have a huge flock of chickens. They've started laying really well again, so I did not know that eggs had gone way back up, and they were almost $4 a dozen. If I had known that going in, I probably wouldn't have chosen to have an egg-based meal, but it turned out okay, and hopefully before too long the price of eggs will go down and this recipe will be a lot more affordable. It's just a really good opportunity right now. If you have a little bit of land and your neighborhood allows it, get you a couple of chickens. They are not hard to take care of and they will pay for themselves in no time, and it's really nice when you don't have to pay $4 for a dozen of eggs. I also liked how versatile this recipe was as well. You can just pick and choose the ingredients that you have or like, and then if something is a little too expensive, you can just leave it off or substitute it for another option. And I thought this was a really good part of the meal plan this week. Well, there comes a time in every frugal meal plan when it's time to make some rice and beans, and we have gotten there in today's video. I've finally learned that I need to wash my beans and my rice before I cook them. Y'all have told me that a million times. It is really important to do that, but sometimes I just forget and dump my beans right into my Instant Pot. Don't do that. Wash them first. And it's super easy to cook some beans in the Instant Pot. I just turn it on the bean setting for about 30 minutes, put the entire 32 ounces of beans in, fill it to the full line with water, put you some salt and maybe some onion powder, garlic powder, and cook it. It'll be ready in no time. And I really think that's probably the best and easiest way to make beans. You don't have to pre-soak them or anything. They're done in no time. And for the rice, just follow the directions on the back of the package. It's super easy and self-explanatory, but those two items are going to go together to make a delicious rice and bean bowl, and that's the next recipe we're going to talk about. Okay, I know rice and bean bowls sounds really basic, but I want you to think about Chipotle and the killing that they have made on this concept alone. So you go to Chipotle, you get a rice and bean bowl, and they charge you about $12 or $15. It's been a while since I've been there, but it's really good. It may be basic, but that doesn't mean that it's not a delicious dinner, and it also doesn't mean that it's not an appropriate or suitable meal for us to feed our families. We don't have to be extravagant. We don't have to be fancy. If we want to be fancy sometimes, that's okay. But if we want to serve our family a simple rice and bean bowl that is full of nutrients and is going to get them throughout the night without being hungry, it's perfectly okay, and it's actually a really good meal. So enjoy your delicious rice and bean bowls with absolutely zero guilt, and I think your family is going to enjoy it too. Next up are these delicious bean and rice enchiladas. I've actually never made an enchilada without meat before, but these turned out to be really good and very frugal. I think I fed my whole family this night for less than $2. That's pretty surprising. That's really hard to do nowadays, and nobody felt like they were hungry. It also made a lot, and there were a lot of leftovers, so we were able to enjoy this for several different meals. Most of us had it for lunch the next day, so it made plenty. I've talked a little bit about this enchilada sauce recipe before. It's just a really easy way to save a good bit of money, so you don't have to buy the store-bought enchilada sauce. And actually, I think it is really one of the better recipes that I've ever had. I highly recommend that you give it a try. Use your bones from your roasted chicken to make the broth, and it will be almost free. I mixed everything together, put it all in our small tortillas that we had left over after our breakfast tacos, and rolled them up, put them in the pan, baked them for about 25 or 30 minutes, and they were ready to go. Now, I didn't have much of a side dish for this meal, but we did have rice and beans, so I felt like it was okay to just have a couple of slices of apples as my side. There were several onions and potatoes left over at the end of the week, so maybe you could use some of those to make an additional side, but I felt like the apples and enchiladas were plenty for me, and I really enjoyed this meal. This barbecue chicken was another one of the recipes this week that was so simple and easy, but I feel like it just had an elevated look. It was really good, but it was also really simple to put together. I don't know if you've noticed, but pretty much every meal this week I have used my new cast iron pans. I got them at the Lodge factory outlet when we went to Georgia. If you do not have one of these pans, I highly recommend it. It has been so nice, easy cleanup, instead of my old cookie sheets that just look worse and worse every time I use them. I know that these pans are going to be absolutely beautiful for the rest of my life and then for my kids' lives too, so I've really enjoyed using them. In order to save money, I cooked up my own barbecue sauce. I don't like to buy store-bought barbecue sauce with high fructose corn syrup in it. I find it very difficult to find an affordable option that doesn't have that ingredient, so just cooking up my own was pretty simple and easy. I don't have a lot of experience making barbecue sauce, so I'm sure that I don't have it dialed in perfect, but it tasted really good to me. Maybe if you have a delicious barbecue sauce recipe that you would like to share, you can leave that down below and I can improve on this simple recipe. But nonetheless, it was very easy to put together, and then just brush it on the chicken. That was about as simple as it could be. I also learned with this meal that these large potato wedges cook up quicker than smaller French fries that sort of take up more of the space in the pan. We actually shared this meal with our friends at a picnic dinner, and these potatoes got rave reviews. Just a little bit of oil, salt, and chili powder, and they were good to go. I baked everything for about 45 minutes, and everything was absolutely delicious. The next recipe is a caprese pasta salad. I was really excited about this recipe. Unfortunately, it did not turn out like I was hoping it would. I think the main issue with this recipe was the pasta that I used. I used chickpea pasta instead of regular. Don't do that. Just go ahead and use the regular pasta. The other problem was my dog ate my other Roma tomatoes, so I had to use the little bitty cherry tomatoes that I had grown in my garden. Not gotten hardly any good tomatoes at all, but fortunately I had like 7 cherry tomatoes to add to this recipe. But hopefully you will have your Roma tomatoes to add. The basil pesto sauce was really good, really flavorful in this recipe. The only thing that was not good in this recipe was the pasta. It just didn't have the right texture. It didn't have the right flavor. So just use regular pasta. That will save about $2 actually. So that will get the cost of the meal plan down substantially, and it will ensure that this meal turns out to be a lot more flavorful and enjoyable. I know that this combination of flavors is really good, but it just was not spot on with the chickpea pasta. Everything else was good, so just use regular pasta and a little bit of your leftover chicken, and this recipe will be delicious. Our last meal this week is going to be a delicious chili. The reason that I chose chili was because, first, I love chili. I told y'all that last week. And second, it's just a really good way for me to have used up the ingredients that I had left over from the previous meals this week. Almost all of the leftovers were eaten for lunch, so I didn't have a lot of leftovers, but I did have plenty to make this chili absolutely delicious and very flavorful. I had bought an entire bag of onions and didn't use them all, so I used 2 onions in this recipe. I used all of the leftover beans that I had cooked up, as well as all of the chicken that I had left over from the previous meals. All of that combined with 1 can of tomato sauce and some seasonings from the spice drawer really brought this meal together. And chili is just such a simple and easy meal to put together that everybody in my family enjoys eating. I love how versatile it is, and I was really glad that I was able to use all of the leftover ingredients in this one delicious meal. Well, I sure have enjoyed sharing these recipes with you today. I can't believe that with $60 I was able to use all of these groceries to feed my family over 100 healthy, nourishing, and delicious meals. I hope you found a little bit of inspiration and and some practical tips to help you save money while you are creating delicious meals for your family. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe for more budget-friendly recipes and homemaking tips. Thank you for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.